and welcome back to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. And happy Easter, by the way. So this one comes to us from the Phantom of the Night, who asked the question, what is the Pokemon team of, where is that, there it is, of Cranel from, I believe the series is in shorthand known as, Danmchi, or How to Pick Up Chicks in a Dungeon. This is the main protagonist of the series, and it's kind of like a sword sandal RPG type of anime, a little bit. It is also a harem anime, as far as I know, because his whole goal initially is to form a harem by picking up chicks, but he does develop as a character later on. I don't know what the term is. Ecchi the term? Or how close to hentai the series gets. As far as I know, it doesn't get too close, but it's still one of those animes where it's like the premise evolves around freaking a harem. So there's got to be some sort of fan servicey crap in there. So yeah, and this was interesting because again, it's a series I'm not well versed in, but I had heard of it, so I know a little bit of it, and when looking into everything this guy has going on for him, I'm like, okay, I could probably figure out a team for this guy. This shouldn't be insanely difficult to do. So let's just get into it. Now, I started out pretty simple with this first mon. I put a Honedge on the team. It's a sword. He's got a blade in his hand right there. I think the blade is that's either a dagger or it's just cut short with the image that I was given here. But so it would make sense. He still carries weapons on him on some level. A Honedge just makes sense. It makes sense. So I should move on to the stuff that now works, for his actual character and development. And one of the big things about this character is they did not start out as a strong main character. They were a standard weak character. But through some lucky circumstances, particularly excess status, as a result of having double S and triple S stats at each level, he has grown to become a powerful adventurer that far surpasses others of the same level. Due to certain he was a talentless person and has been recognized by Ina and his grandfather, Omari, made an analog that if the world was a gacha game, which with the gods being players, independents being players, basically. But he would, after basically doing a very specific achievement, he gained a lot of experience very quickly. And it basically bumped all of his stats up to umpteenth degree, which gave him enhanced strength. And by the way, it looks like, at least from the clip I'm seeing, it's a knife he wields, but yeah, regardless. But enhanced strength, durability, agility, reflexes, all that. I gave him all this, plus magical capabilities, so forth and so on. But I wanted something that kind of represented that. I wanted a mon on the team that represented the idea of starting out weak and then evolving to a much stronger guy, one of the stronger characters in the series. And I thought of one mon came to mind when I thought about this. And I'm like, Golisopod. Now, specifically, what I thought about wasn't Golisopod so much as it was Wimpod. Wimpod is, by its name alone, is a very wimpy, weak Pokemon. It's literally got wimp in its name. But Golisopod is a very good Pokemon. I've always, when the Lola came around, I made sure to get a Golisopod on my team when I saw the evolution of Wimpod. I'm like, this is a cool, it's got almost like a samurai feel to it. It's crustacean-like. It's a badass looking mon. And it's a good mon, too. It's not like, an end-all be-all, but it's a solid mon. Bug Water is a decent type. It's got great physical stats. So it's a solid mon. And it's a perfect representation of a Digimon line that starts out as among the weakest of the weak, turning into among, some of the stronger of the strong. At least within the bug type, it's among the strongest. That's a good question. I think stat-wise, it's among the strongest bug types. 1 second. I'm going to just find Golisopod's base stats real quick here. I didn't bother to look it up because it wasn't really relevant to the conversation up until this point. But let's see here now. Golisopod. Why don't we just go to bug instead? Golisopod. Where are you, my good old friend Golisopod? This would fall probably under one of my favorite bug types, too. And again, if nothing else, just by a design standpoint. It's just got a great design. Let's see here now. So, Golisopod's base stat total is 530. That's a solid base stat though. You'd actually, as far as bugs go, you'd be hard pressed to find more than maybe 5 bug type mon in total that have a higher base stat total than that. With the exception of, like, say, Paradox. Well, actually, the only Paradox forms that are bug type, I think, are Slitherwing. And let's find out. Yeah, Slitherwing. Yeah, just Slitherwing, which that one I know is, I believe, base stat total of 570. I think that's all the Paradox mon. Other than that, though, except for Volcarona's standard, which is about a 550, and you got to count the Ultra Beast too, Buzzwole and Pheromosa. You got to count them in there too. So, and Silvally technically, because it can be bug type, but that I don't count Silvally. But yeah, you got to count that too. So basically, yeah, except for Volcarona and quote unquote legendary Pokemon like Genesect, stat-wise, I mean, Golisopod probably has among the highest stat totals of most bug-type Pokemon. Maybe Selgor and Excalibur, Basculeer might count as being higher. I don't know. I'm looking that up right now. No, not at all. Selgor is not by a long shot stronger than is not stronger than Golisopod. So yeah, I mean, except for maybe some legendary. But yeah, you basically either have to be a legendary or kind of be the equivalent of a legendary in some regard. There is no, even like Scizor has the same base stat total as Scyther at 500. And I'm not counting Megas for obvious reasons. That's cheating. We're talking about just the standard bug type. And yeah, no, Golisopod stands as one of the strongest bug types stat-wise. So I just went on a rant about that. Let's move on. One of the things that stood out to me though is his name, the title he's been given, which is called Rabbitfoot, because he kept upgrading and he gained the title Rabbitfoot. He also has an ability called Rabbit Rush, which charges his opponent for a first series of high-speed slashes with his 2 knives. Okay, so he has 2 knives. So really, you could probably change the Hone Edge to a Doublade, and you'd be good. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, I need a rabbit Pokemon. And there's a couple at this point. There are a couple rabbit Pokemon. But the one that stood out to me, look, because it's a harem anime, I knew I needed some sort of feminine Pokemon. And I went with Lopunny, specifically, as you can see here, Mega Lopunny. This would make sense because his initial goal was to just get a harem. It would make sense that he would bond very strongly with the more feminine Pokemon on the team. And, honestly, I could imagine Wimpod being like his very first Pokemon, but then him picking up the Lopunny later on and bonding very hard with the Lopunny. Very hard. Giggity giggity. But no. Save that for the internet. And maybe he had the Hone Edge too. And all these were just so low-level Pokemon that he couldn't really do much. But he continued to grow and adapt and bond with the Lopunny or the Bunary that turned into Lopunny, and he ultimately, on a mission, maybe gained the Lopunny Knight, and there you go. So, yeah, Lopunny, and it goes towards him being actually a very skilled fighter at this point, too. Now, there are a couple other things he gained on here. One is he gained a near immunity to all poisons. That is a Zangoose trait. Zangoose cannot be poisoned. Now, so Steel types can't be poisoned either, but specifically, he is a non-Steel type who cannot be poisoned. And that just made sense. Plus, he's a rough and tough kind of Pokemon. Always liked Zangoose. It's Zangoose. I've watched too much Bleach. I pronounce the Zang as a Zon because it's not Zangetsu, it's Zongetsu. But no, it's Zangoose. No, but in all seriousness, Zangoose is Zangoose makes sense. It's a strong Pokemon. Nothing super amazing in terms of like stats, but it's got a decent stat total. I think it's like pretty sure it's like in the 400s for its overall stat total, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Let's just do a quick stat check since we're here. Let's see here. Zangoose. Zangoose. And that's right. Zangoose is shiny blue. Let's see here. Zangoose. Yeah, 458. Not amazing, but not bad. I've used Zangoose before. I like Zangoose fine. So, yeah, Zangoose makes sense for the immunity. Then he also has one spell, Firebolt. So I knew I needed a fire type on the team to represent this. It's the one sole fire type he gets on the team. But I'm like, okay, what fire type do I use? Firebolt's a low-level spell, but he has such a high attack potency and magic use that he can make it an extremely powerful spell. So this got me thinking, okay, what? I felt it needed to be a mono-type Firemon. And something that really kind of has a lot of fire in its design. Just to represent the idea of a Firebolt. And my initial idea was to go with Quilava. It looks almost like a bullet, so to some degree, but I went with Typhlosion instead. It would make sense that he may have gotten, when he first got the ability to use Firebolt, that he got a, there we go, that he had a Quilava that was just kind of like this little bullet of fire, but as it grew and got stronger, as his powers grew and got stronger, it turned into a Typhlosion. Now, there's not as much fire on this design as I would like, but still, fire is fire. And it's a monotype. It's a preferred mono. It's a favored monotype. I really like Typhlosion. I mean, as much as I gravitate towards the grass starter most of the time, Gen 1, grass starter first. Gen 3, grass starter first. Gen 4, grass starter first. Gen 5, love me a snake, grass starter first. Gen 6, don't care what anyone says, I love Chestnut. Golden is a bad design, but I love Chestnut. Gen 7, you know me, I am a Decidueye guy all the way. Gen 8, Rillaboom was the best one of the three. Cinderace competitively, I think, is better. That overall, especially when you give it that, was it the not Limber, Limbero or something the name is? Something where it like takes on type traits of something. But then Gen 9 came and I'm like, no, the Firestar is the best one here. Yeah. And Gen 2 was the only case or scenario where I looked at all my options for the first time I played. And I'm like, you know what? I want to play with this guy. I want to see what the Cyndaquil turns into. Cool, Typhlosion, yay! So that was my history with that. But moving on, so that's why Typhlosion's on the team. Last but not least, and this was something that when we talked about like his skills and abilities, skills specifically, what was it again? Development abilities, that's what it was. One of the things he has is Luck, which is a rare development ability Bell chose once he reached level 2. And it's an unprecedented ability, even as Ina hadn't heard of it, even though she is a guild member, and Hestia states that it's close to divine protection. It overall improves his luck, such as finding resources in dungeons and getting drops more frequently, in addition to winning rapidly at casinos. Cassandra believes that his luck is what allowed him to believe her prophecies. But that means I wanted something that was lucky. I wanted a Pokemon that could be a representation of luck. Now, sadly, there actually isn't a lot in terms of Mon that kind of represent that. I thought initially Victini, but Victini doesn't actually increase your luck. It heightens the abilities and everything like that. It's got V-Create, but it's not actually a luck Pokemon. It's more of a enhancement kind of. I looked it up too. Victini, it does not deal with luck. It increases like the power of individuals around it. But there is an ability called Super Luck. And ultimately, a Mon that can learn Super Luck is Absol. And another Mon I've always liked. It's not a super strong, it's an okay Mon. But it's design-wise, it's a cool-looking Mon. But it's not a overly strong Pokemon, but it's a cool Mon. And it's got a Mega Evolution, but we already had one. I didn't want to go further on that. Basically, because it has Super Luck, all its critical hit chances go up by 1. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but the fact is it has an ability called Super Luck. So I felt that, and it's just a cool Mon, and it could be just one of those random Mon. There's only a handful of Mon that can actually learn Super Luck, and Absol was, I think, the cooler of them, and I guess fits the best with like a dungeon crawl. Which now leads us to the last part of the video, as always, where I ask the question, how balanced actually is this team? And honestly, it's a really balanced team. Let's break it down here real quick. You got a Mono Fire type. You got a Mono Dark type. You got 2 Mono Normal types, one that can turn into a Mono Fighting type. You got a dual Ghost Steel type and a dual Bug Water type. So the good news is this team has a lot of resistance to Ghost, surprisingly. The dark type is very resistant to it and strong against Ghost, actually. And you got 2 Mon that are just straight immune to Ghost. You've also got a good resistance to Psychic with Golisopod, Honedge, and I think Orzer, and Absol as well. Lapuni gets to mitigate some of the weaknesses, the fighting weakness of a normal type by gaining the fighting type. Now, I guess the question is, what are the weaknesses of this team? Is this team completely broken? Not necessarily. While mitigating some of the weaknesses going into Mega Evolution, Lapuni still has the normal type, which means it still can get hit by fighting, and it still hurts. Absol and Zangoose are not immune to that shit either. Add on to the fact that getting a normal or getting a fighting type also means that it is weak to fairy types now. And there are 3 Mon on this team that are also at least ×2 weak to fairy type. Well, that's not true. Honedge does have the steel type to help. Why am I thinking Honedge was weak to fairy? It's not. But there are 2 Mon on this team that are very weak to fairy types as well. And I mean, each of the monos on this team also have their own, weaknesses as well. Apart from fighting dark, Absol is also weak to bug types. Obviously, ground and water types are very specifically, and rock types are specific weaknesses to Typhlosion. If I'm not mistaken, isn't normal weak to? I think normal's weak to rock as well, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. I always thought rock was strong against normal, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Either way, though, beyond that, I'm just looking at everything we have here. Really, the idea of what the team's biggest weaknesses are comes from the bottom row of the monotypes, because Lapuni, like I said, can mitigate some of the weaknesses of this team. Poison really isn't that big of an issue, thanks to having 1 steel type and 1 Mon that's purely immune. You got a water type there with some water coverage and Golisopod. You only need 1 water type move, but that's still coverage. It can also learn some fighting type moves, some dark type moves, even some ghost type moves, if I'm not mistaken. So, this is a pretty balanced team. If you fully evolved basically just the Honedge into a Aegislash, you'd have a really good team here. And if you somehow added a Megastone onto Absol just to kind of space out who's evolving into which one, just having the option. Yeah, you'd have a pretty solid team here. This is actually one of the most balanced teams I've ever made on this. So anyway, I don't think about the balance of the team. I just think of, okay, what can I do to make this seem logical for this person to have? Anyway, I digress. This is what I think this character's team would be like. Let me know in the comments what you think. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I'll see you for the next one. I got a box office to talk about. Later.